This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Join the Sea of Soul formation? Yunxiao was taken aback and fell into deep thought. This was beyond his expectations. Yong Tianyun's eyes narrowed slightly as he watched the change in Yunxiao's expression. As far as I know, young Master Yunxiao hasn't joined any force yet, but he has a sacred mountain like Yanwu, many 9th-tier mystic artifacts, and an extremely flamboyant reputation. All of this is very enviable. He laughed indifferently. Young Master Yunxiao is like a child holding a gold ingot as he walks in the market with everyone's eyes on him. Yunxiao pondered silently. He had also realized this. Although he wasn't a pushover, not everyone knew that. Moreover, his strength was indeed not enough in front of the truly large sects. The benefits of joining the Sea of Soul formation are self-evident, Yang Tianyun encouraged. You can get a lot of resources and support, and no one in the world dares to provoke you. What about the obligations? Yunxiao asked. Of course I have a duty. Since we've joined the Sea of Soul formation, we must put the benefits of the Sea of Soul formation above all else, because this is our shared glory. Yang Tianyun said seriously. I understand, Yunxiao said. For the Sea of Soul formation, I can even give up my life. How can it be that bad? Yang Tianyun laughed and said, I'm afraid you'll be finished when the Sea of Soul formation requires you to risk your life. What if I don't join? Yunxiao asked. What if I don't? Yang Tianyun looked up and said leisurely, young Master Yunxiao is a smart man. By the way, I also have to deal with a murder case on the way to the Red Moon City. Master Si Deyuan, an 8th-tier great alchemist of my Sea of Soul formation, was framed and killed. I wonder if young Master Yunxiao knows the real murderer. Yang Tianyun especially emphasized the word murderer. The meaning in his eyes was self-evident. Yunxiao cursed in his heart and said resolutely, Master Si Deyuan was killed by Thunderwind Chamber of Commerce. The entire Haitian town witnessed it with their own eyes. There are tens of thousands of witnesses. The murderer has been executed by Lord Liao Yangbing, the city lord of Haitian town. There is no doubt about it. Oh. That would have to be investigated carefully. In many cases, seeing may not be believing. For example, I think it's quite mysterious about the damage to young Master Yunxiao's Martial Dao Foundation. Yang Tianyun chuckled. Can you give me some time to think about it? Yunxiao frowned. I'll think about it again. In his previous life, he was also a member of the Sea of Soul formation and had a certain friendship with it. However, he was too weak now. Once he entered the Sea of Soul formation, he would be at the mercy of others. The two partners had to have similar strength to ensure fairness. Otherwise, the weaker one was, the greater the loss. Of course you can. Seeing that Yunxiao did not refuse, Yang Tianyun was quite satisfied. A light flickered in his hand, and an exquisite badge immediately emerged, exuding a very strong power. This is the badge of an 8th-tier alchemist. Young Master Yun, please accept it. The two disciples behind him were taken aback, and a strange look appeared on their faces. Generally, an alchemist needed to take a test to advance to the next level, especially for a high-rank alchemist like the 8th tier, which could not be taken lightly. But their master had just given the badge to someone else. The alchemist badge is only a symbol below the 6th tier, but from the 6th tier onwards, the materials used are extremely precious, and it has a certain auxiliary effect during refining. It is also a small profound artifact. Young Master Yun, Yang Tianyun explained, you only need to imprint a piece of divine sense into it, and there will be a corresponding record in the Sea of Soul formation. If something happens to you, the Sea of Soul formation will know immediately and find out the truth. Yunxiao picked up the badge and put it away without branding it with his divine sense. Let's talk about it after I join the Sea of Soul formation. Once one's divine sense was imprinted, one would be detected by the Sea of Soul formation no matter where they were unless they had the power of their previous lives to track and block it. That's great. Yang Tianyun wasn't in a hurry. I'll also stay in the Red Moon City and explore the world. If you need anything, you can find me at any time. Yunxiao nodded. It would be a great help to him if he could rely on the Sea of Soul formation at this time. Suddenly, his expression changed as he asked tentatively, Elder Tianyun, have there been any changes in the Sea of Soul formation recently? Yang Tianyun was taken aback, and then his face changed drastically. His eyes shot out a fierce light as he looked straight at Yunxiao. From the time the two of them had been conversing until now, they had never seen him so nervous, nor had they seen him have such a serious expression. An enormous soul power rolled out of Yang Tianyun's body, and his sharp eyes seemed to be able to break through all of Yunxiao's defenses and read his mind. Yunxiao's face flickered as he hurriedly circulated the Great Expansion Divine Technique to block the incoming spiritual power. But it disintegrated in an instant. The other party was a true 9th-tier alchemist. Only by using bloodline techniques could he face them head-on. If he only relied on mental energy to fight, he would lose without a doubt. Clang. Yunxiao clenched his fists in front of him, and a cold light condensed in front of him. The 1000-year blade let out a crisp sound as it vibrated, and 3 Maha ancient characters rose from the blade, resisting Yang Tianyun's spiritual attack together with his soul power. When Xiao Ran and Fuyu saw the treasured saber, they were immediately alarmed and became extremely alert. Elder Tianyun, if you keep staring at me like that, I'll be embarrassed and I might not be able to hold my saber. Yunxiao was secretly shocked. Yang Tianyun's spiritual power was much stronger than it was decades ago, and he could not even hold on for the expected time. Yang Tianyun suddenly laughed and withdrew his spiritual power. He was even more shocked than Yunxiao. He had been worried about whether Yunxiao really had the strength of an 8th-tier alchemist. From the fight just now, he could tell that his soul power had almost reached the peak of the 8th tier. This brat was not even 20 years old, he wouldn't be advancing to tier 9, right? This thought shocked him greatly, and his heart began to beat rapidly. A 9th-tier alchemist who was less than 20 years old. What did this mean? At the very least, it meant that he would be the most respected person in the art of cultivation for the next few hundred years. The two of them looked a little unsightly. What do you mean, Elder Tianyun? Yunxiao asked coldly. You've asked me so many questions in a row, and I've only asked one question, and you're already making things difficult for me? Yang Tianyun suppressed the shock in his heart and thought for a while before sighing. Young Master Yun is also a person who experienced the burial land. What kind of changes do you think the Sea of Soul formation will have? Yunxiao sneered. This is your sex business. How would I know? Since Elder Tianyun is not willing to tell me, then forget it. I'm not that curious about gossip. Yang Tianyun looked at him deeply and said, Do you know who Yu Shengfeng is? Yunxiao chuckled. Although this name has been around for hundreds of years, it was one of the 2 great leaders whose names shook the continent hundreds of years ago. He was the leader of the Sea of Soul formation of the previous generation, the president of the Alchemist Association, and the master of the current president, Lu Zongzi. Yang Tianyun's face was extremely serious. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, he said, Since you already know, I won't hide it from you. The current situation in the Sea of Soul formation was very complicated, and there were signs that a storm was coming. Lord Ni's return is a disaster, not a blessing. Yunxiao's expression flickered. What you just said contains a lot of information. He said. Back in the boneyard, the Saint Realm Su Chu had also found out about Yu Shengfeng's identity. However, he had already lost his physical body. It was really surprising that he could still compete with Lu Zongzi after returning to the Sea of Soul formation. Could it be that Lu Zongzi still remembered their old friendship? He's not a soft-hearted person. The 3 of them had extremely unsightly expressions, and cold sweat seeped out of their foreheads. It was one thing for this kid to call Lord Lu Zongzi by his name, but he also said such shocking words, making them feel a chill down their backs. Yang Tianyun looked at him and said seriously, Young Master Yun, the amount of information in your words is even greater than mine. These are all major events that are enough to stir up the winds and clouds on the continent, and they are not things that you and I can discuss. This matter will stop here. Yunxiao snorted coldly in his heart. It seemed that there was indeed something wrong between Lu Songzi and his disciple. Yu Shengfeng cultivated a devil technique and had obtained the broken body of Emperor Jun. In addition to his prestige in the past, he would certainly have many great alchemists who were highly respected. More importantly, when he was training on Shonghua Island in the southern region, the crystals that came out of the Soul Formation Sea were all filled with demonic qi. It proved that there were still potential devil cultivators and alchemists in the Sea of Soul Formation. The existence of these people must be greatly related to the fact that Yu Shengfeng was the leader of the Sea of Soul Formation back then. With a smile in his eyes, Yunxiao said leisurely, "The situation on the continent is getting more and more chaotic. The situation in the Merchant Union is unclear, and a storm is coming in the Sea of Soul Formation. Fortunately, the Holy Region and the 7 superpowers are still in peace. Otherwise, it would be a real disaster." Stable? I hope so. Yong Tianyun's eyes were filled with worry as he asked, "Young Master Yun, are you really not willing to disclose the information about Noah's ship? If there is turmoil in the realm of heavenly martial arts, it must be suppressed by a peerless master. If Noah's ship can be used by the power of justice, it will have a great positive effect on the future turmoil." What is justice? Yunxiao chuckled. Treasures have spirits, and Noah's ship has its own mission. The heavenly Tao is leisurely. It seems chaotic, but everything is in its destiny. As a 9th-tier great alchemist, Elder Tianyun also plays a pivotal role on the continent. Doing your best will play a positive role in stabilizing the situation of the heavenly martial realm. Yong Tianyun was taken aback. He did not expect Yunxiao to say such philosophical words. He immediately fell into deep thought, and the more he thought about it, the more he felt that it made sense. Today's discussion has benefited me. All right. Yunxiao rose and said, "If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave." Yong Tianyun looked up at Yunxiao and had an illusion that the man standing in front of him was not a junior, but a friend of many years. This feeling made Yong Tianyun feel strange. It was as if an extremely powerful soul was hiding under this young body. He had also guessed that he would be possessed by someone, but once he was possessed, the damage to his body would be extremely great. It was already difficult for him to maintain his cultivation level without declining, not to mention such rapid progress. Moreover, with his cultivation, he could tell with a single glance whether he was possessed by an expert or not. There was no way he could deceive him. Yunxiao's eyes were as clear as stars, and it was impossible for him to be possessed by a strong man. "Young Master Yun, please consider joining my Sea of Soul Formation," Yong Tianyun said. "By the way, the person you were fighting just now is from the reclusive Mu family. They will also explore the world and have extraordinary strength. It's still safe in the Red Moon City, but if you enter the end of time, you have to be careful." Yunxiao frowned. He did not expect that the opening of the world would draw the people from the reclusive families out. He nodded and said, "I will. Don't cross the bridge." After that, Yunxiao walked straight out of the VIP room and left the trading hall in search of a remote place. Xiao finally couldn't bear it anymore and said, "Master, this Li Yunxiao is so arrogant. Why did you lower yourself to ask him to come?" Yong Tianyun pondered and paced back and forth in the room with his hands behind his back. He sighed, "This kid is definitely not an ordinary person. He's even more monstrous than I expected. He'll definitely be the one to stir up the world in the future." Xiao and Fuyu were both shocked. They had never heard Yong Tianyun praise someone like this before. Yunxiao walked straight out of the trading hall and instinctively felt many eyes on him, many of which were strong and malicious. As soon as he left the trading hall, he rose into the air and disappeared into the sky in a flash of light. Those who were following him in the dark could do nothing about it. They did not dare to fly above the Red Moon City. Yunxiao's escape technique was extremely fast. In just a few flashes, he had left Honghua City and was heading out of the city. Everyone only saw a flash of lightning across the sky, and in an instant, he was thousands of miles away. A moment later, he arrived at the place where he had obtained the Agarine. The place had been destroyed and turned into a lake and river, but it was suitable for hiding and cultivating. He didn't stay at Ningqiue's Peachwood because he didn't want to have anything to do with Jiang Ruame. He was even more afraid that he would expose the moon pupil. He had removed the curse. Although Ningqiue had helped to block the investigation, the higher-ups of the Red Moon City would still be suspicious. The more contact they had, the worse it would be. Looking at the lake, the Divine Realm tablet shot out from between Yunxiao's eyebrows and fell directly into the river, stabbing into the bottom of the river. Then, he turned into a beam of light and flew into the lake. Since he could do whatever he wanted in the Divine Realm tablet, he took out all the 30,000 primordial pills that Ningqiue had given him and began to meditate and absorb them. Time passed by bit. Yunxiao was still surrounded by spirit qi, and even his figure could not be seen clearly. A few days later, the hazy spirit qi gradually faded, and the shadow that seeped out of it finally moved. Vaguely, one could see that his hands were constantly making incantation gestures. The gradually decreasing spirit qi in the surroundings suddenly shrank toward the center, all of which was sucked up by Yunxiao. He took out the exploding yuan fruit with a serious expression, put it in his mouth, and swallowed it. Immediately, a violent force formed in his body. His body, which had been full of primordial qi after being devoured by the one qi creation skill, grew explosively under the guidance of the exploding yuan fruit. In an instant, Yunxiao's body swelled up like a balloon. Yunxiao quickly performed incantation gestures with both hands, and his body suddenly turned golden, as bright as the sun. 3 heads and 6 arms appeared under the golden body, while the other 2 faces closed their eyes and performed different incantation gestures. Even with the appearance of the golden body with 3 heads and 6 arms, it was still unable to suppress the exponential increase of the elemental energy in his body. It was like a wave crashing against his meridians and bones, as if every cell was filled with energy, squeezing his whole body to the brim. The energy around his body condensed into a strong wind and shot out. His 3 faces all showed a painful and ferocious expression. Boom! A muffled sound came from his body. The bottleneck of the 8 Stars Martial Supreme had been broken through. He still couldn't digest the power in his body, and his momentum was still rising. Yunxiao's 3 heads and 6 arms were twisted and deformed. His eyes were bloodshot, and the power of the lunar pupil spread out to cast an illusion on himself, paralyzing the nerves in his brain and reducing his pain. The whole process lasted for a day and a night. When the energy in his body was exhausted, Yunxiao could not even think about it. He fell from the air and fell to the ground, unable to get up. A few days later, a beam of light shot up from the bottom of the river. It was Yunxiao, who had become a mid-grade 9 Stars Martial Venerable. He turned into a beam of light and headed toward Red Moon City. Suddenly, he had an idea. After flying for thousands of miles, he suddenly stopped. A layer of killing intent appeared on his face. He looked around and said coldly, "All of you, come out." The space around them fluctuated slightly, and several extremely strong auras spread out, sealing the space where Yunxiao was. Then, 4 martial emperors came out from 4 different directions and surrounded Yunxiao. The man on the east side raised his eyes slightly and chuckled, "You made us wait. We thought you wouldn't come back." The man from the north heaved a sigh of relief. "If we still don't see anyone after half a day, we'll all give up. There's only a moment left before the strange phenomenon of the red moon hanging high above the purple cloud peak. After that, the opening of the ancient land and the heaven will open. If we don't see you soon, we'll have to leave. Everyone, stop talking nonsense. This brat has some ability, and it might be a bit difficult to kill him. Kill him quickly, don't delay our journey to the immortal land." The man in the south had a murderous look in his eyes. "It's tricky, but with the 4 of us working together, it won't take long for the 4 of us to become 4-star martial sovereigns." The man from the west laughed. The 4 of them released their auras at the same time. In an instant, the sky changed color, the earth trembled, and all kinds of auras surged around Yunxiao, as if they were going to roll him into a meat paste. Yunxiao's face was calm as he said indifferently, "You want to kill me, but you're not even going to give me a reason?" The man in the north laughed, "The reason is that you have too many treasures on you. The four men had tracked him down from Red Moon City to seize the treasure, but Yunxiao's escape technique was too fast for them to catch up with. So, they had to wait for him on the only way back. After the man from the north finished speaking, he sneered and threw a punch. The entire space exploded and fell down. That's almost what I guessed, Yunxiao nodded. His figure flickered slightly and shifted rapidly in the air, dissolving the fist force. A cold expression appeared on his face as he said coldly, "In that case, let's end the battle quickly. I'm also in a hurry to go to the immortal land." He raised his right hand and threw the divine realm tablet into the air. A few figures flew out of the tablet. They were Mo Xiaochuan, Halian Xiao Huang, and the three Go brothers. The five of them had mocking expressions on their faces as they stared at the four people, trying to find their targets. What? What's going on? The four people were shocked. Their momentum and pride were instantly frozen, and their faces were dazed and frightened. Why are there 5 more people suddenly? Not good. They're all martial sovereigns of the 9 heavens. The 4 of them immediately came to their senses. Although they didn't know what was going on, at least they knew that their ambush was going to fail. The person from the east had an extremely ugly expression. He gritted his teeth and said, "The situation has changed. We can't stay for long. Let's go." He was decisive and did not take risks. You want to leave? You're all martial sovereigns with extraordinary strength. Why are you all so silly and naive? Mo Xiaochuan's face revealed a hint of mockery. In a flash, he blocked the man on the east side and swept his sword across. Bang! The man on the east side hurriedly took out his sword to block the attack. The 2 swords clashed and he was sent flying hundreds of meters away. He paled in shock and immediately judged that the other party's strength was definitely not below his. The other 3 people were shocked and were about to escape separately. They weren't good friends, but they came together because they had the same goal and were equal in strength. Speaking of which, they had also helped Yunxiao a lot, and many other scumbags who had designs on him had been driven away by them. You look stronger than me, so I'll kill you. Go Yueguang's expression was ice-cold as he appeared in front of the man in the north. He swung his sword like water and trapped the man in the north without any warning. Go Xingguang and Go Riguang were slightly weaker, but the 2 of them still joined forces to surround the person in the south. Why did you leave the most trashy one for me again? Haolian Xiaohuang frowned. Because you're the worst on our side, Yunxiao rolled his eyes at him and said. You're the worst. Haolian Xiaohuang's face was covered in sweat as he awkwardly said, "All right," he said. He hurriedly flew over, and the helmet on his fist unfolded like the head of a small beast. It suddenly opened its fangs and bit down in the world of the fist intent. In the end, the man in the west was secretly delighted. The one who stopped him was only a 2-star martial sovereign, and he was still able to kill him in minutes. However, as soon as the fist intent world appeared, his expression changed drastically. Looking at the entire complicated battlefield, it was actually Hao Wang who caused the most commotion. The immortal fist intent extended and formed a world of its own. What kind of martial Dao comprehension is this? He's actually so abnormal. The man on the west side was shocked. He put away all his underestimation and poured all his strength into the sword in his hand. He slashed out 3 times in one go, wanting to split this world apart. Suddenly, a few strange powers formed in the world of the fist intent. At first, it was just a small cluster, but then it increased and became bigger and bigger. It actually evolved into 4 colors, chaotic together, and suppressed the sword chi. These are the elemental powers of earth, water, fire, and wind in my fist intent world. I shall name this improved Vajra fist as the creation of heaven and earth. Haolian Xiaowang's eyes narrowed, and the power of earth, water, fire, and wind began to spin, transforming into a chaotic Massachusetts. All the power in the entire fist intent world was instantly sucked into the chaotic mass, collapsing into an extreme point.